Okay, here is my video on setting up the ISN for Miss Finnin's 7th grade language arts class. As you can see, I decorated the front of mine. I put my name and my subject area on there. You should do the same. I also went ahead and decorated the back. It's up to you whether you do that. Let's take a look at what the table of, or the first page should be marked quick reference, and you will notice that I have used duct tape at the front and at the back of mine because it was starting to fall out. You're welcome to do the same. It doesn't have to be a fancy duct tape though. And the very first page when you look inside should be the quick reference page. At this point in time, we don't have anything on it. The second and third pages should be the table of contents. You will notice that on the left-hand side, table of contents starts page 1, then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., all the way down until you run out of space. So odd numbers here, even numbers here. I'm going to show you on this what you should have in your table of contents at this time. And I will pause for a minute so you can see the typed version of our table of contents. This is effective at the end of class on Friday, September 20th. The second side for the table of contents should pick up with whatever number you left off on the left page. Mine got to page 58. The very next number should be here. So mine would be 59, 60, 61, 62. And again, you should have the odd numbered table of contents, even numbered pages. Now we did not start officially numbering the pages themselves until we got here. So right after the table of contents is page 1. That is where we took notes on Webb's Depth of Knowledge, Cornell Notes style. And then we put the handout that came with that lesson in the pocket here on page 12. If you have lost this handout, you can find it in Edmodo in the Webb's DOK folder. You can print it out, cut it up yourself, and go ahead and stick it into the pocket. Page 3 of our ISN should be probably, it's just going to be a page divided in half, summary questions. This was an experiment that I did where I was trying to just go ahead and have us do the notes for Cornell Notes here, but the questions and summary on a facing page. We only did it like this one time, and I never required anyone to go back and write anything on that page other than the labels. On this side is where we took notes on how to take Cornell Notes. The essential question was, how do we create Cornell Notes? And this was dated August 29th. You can find the information we used to create our notes in the 4 ways or 4 parts of the Cornell Way handout and the PowerPoint, both located on Edmodo in the Cornell Notes folder. Page 5 of our ISN is where we did Cornell Notes on poetic devices. It was dated August 30th, and the essential question is, how does Roald Dahl use poetic devices in Little Red? You can find in the blog for the post dated August 30th the directions on what kind of notes you should take. I did not require questions and summary at this point, but if you are writing them, you are doing the right thing. Page 6 of the ISN is where the actual springboard pages for Activity 514 should be. And the advanced classes also did a comparison and contrast double bubble map of poetry and prose in the upper left-hand corner here on page 6. Now when we pull our springboard pages off, we go ahead and do what I call a dead burrito, now known as a Dorito. And basically anything that we fold up into our pockets that comes in a 8.5 by 11 size, like our springboard pages do, you fold from the short ends. They overlap, so you're making like a tube where all the sides are equal. Okay, and see how it's like a tube? And then what I do is I flatten the tube. Okay, so it went from being a burrito to a dead burrito, and then I go ahead and put our springboard pages in just like that. Page 7 of our ISN is the topic of imagery. The date was September 5th, and the essential question is, how does Rita Dove use imagery in her poem to appeal to the reader's imagination? And you can check on the blog where I entered the September 5th CBC and scale for the directions on what kind of notes to take. I did not require questions and summary for this part at this point, but if you're doing it, great job. And then all you should have is your springboard pages. They go with activity 5.15, dead burrito fold inside this. Okay, page 9 of our ISN is the Highwayman. Epic poetry was the topic. The date was September 16th, and the essential question is, what makes the Highwayman an example of an epic narrative poem? What we did was write down unfamiliar vocabulary words and their definitions in the notes. I required students go back and circle the vocabulary words later. We did not do a question or summary, but if you did, that's fine. And in SB, on this page over here, if you needed to continue with the vocabulary words, you could have put them over here. But what we did was put 2 examples each of imagery, refrain, foreshadowing, and metaphor from the Highwayman poem in our notes on this page, and we literally wrote right over the pocket here. Then we pulled the Springboard Activity 516, did a dead burrito fold, and stuck it in the pocket here. On September 20th, we started Cornell Notes on page 11 on Poetic Devices 2. The essential question is, how can I examine the sensory images in a text? We had to make a prediction on what the poem Oranges was about in activity 517 in Springboard, and we had to do a summary of the poem. The directions on how to do all that are available in the blog titled September 20th CBC and scale. We also had to do a bubble map where we listed the name of an incident that we have encountered in our life or were involved in, where we had to make a choice. And it could be a real choice, or you could make something up that seemed realistic. And then in the outer bubbles, we wrote down sensory details. During that incident, what did you see, hear, touch, taste, or smell? And then we turned this double bubble map, or excuse me, single bubble map, into a minimum 5-sentence paragraph story here, where we incorporated these details into a brief narrative on page 21. Excuse me, page 12. If you want to do it poem style instead of a paragraph, you could have done that as well. And we went ahead today on Monday, September 23rd, and we created our Cornell Notes on page 13 for the topic narrative elements. And the essential question is, how can identifying the narrative elements in a text help me create a found poem? And then we created the pocket here, but we have not at this point put anything in it. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment through the blog. Thank you.